Good morning, and thank you for joining us here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards as we celebrate the beginning of the next chapter of Orioles baseball. My name is Rob Long. I'm a broadcaster with the Baltimore Orioles, and it is an honor for me to be here for this significant occasion. But before we get started, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the tragedy that took place at the Francis Scott Key Bridge on Tuesday morning. Our hearts go out to the victims and to their families. While we mourn their losses, we have immense gratitude for our leaders, including Governor Wes Moore, who's here today, and the many first responders who continue to risk their lives in hopes of returning more people home. If anyone here today knows, especially the people on the stage, that Baltimoreans are strong and we are resilient, and together we will get through this. Can you please join me right now in a moment of silence? Thank you. I'd like to take this time to introduce some very important people here today. Governor Wes Moore is joining us today. Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott sitting in front of me. Senator Ben Cardin as well as Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby. I saw him somewhere right there. Now, of course, I'd like to have the pleasure to introduce the 63rd Governor of our great state of Maryland and passionate Orioles fan, Wes Moore.
Good morning. While today is an important day, it's important that we also acknowledge the moment that we find ourselves in. And today, we are thinking about the families of Dolian Castillo Cabrera and Maynor Suazo Sandoval, who were recovered and identified yesterday. We pray for the family and the families of all of the victims of the Key Bridge collapse, and our hearts are with the families. And to all the families, we are so sorry for this tragedy. Nuestros corazones están con las familias. Lamentamos mucho esta tragedia. And I also want to recognize David Rubenstein. I first had a chance to meet David about 20 years ago when a friend and a mentor of mine, Mayor Schmoke, introduced us and insisted that I give David a call. And the thing that I have always found about David is this. Not only has he always been incredibly generous with his time, every conversation that I've had with David has begun with a simple question. How's Baltimore doing? David is a Baltimore guy. And to have him at the helm of this team means everything to this city and to this state. So David, thank you for believing in Baltimore. And congratulations on the unanimous vote by Major League Baseball declaring you the controlling owner of the Baltimore Orioles. It's an exciting moment, and it's an exciting moment for the entire team as well. Michael, it's great to see you. David and I and so many in this room, we know that this team is about much more than just a baseball franchise. This team is about the city. The Orioles are the soul of Baltimore. And knowing that, the city's going to need you now more than ever. In this moment, it is important to take stock of what a difference a year can make. Because a year ago, uncertainty clouded everything. One of the most storied franchises in baseball history had just months left on its lease. The default, oftentimes, was to sign short-term deals because long-term deals were too hard. We had a team of youth and promise, but hadn't yet shown baseball just how good they could be. We had a city that was full of hope and potential, but hadn't yet shown the country its full strength. We were coming off 8 straight years of 300+ homicides in the city of Baltimore alone. Our economy was still reeling from an unprecedented global pandemic. So from day one, we made the deliberate decision that we were going to work together to make sure that we were going to invest in Baltimore, because you cannot have a thriving state if your state's largest city is not thriving as well. And so we decided to work together with local leadership, with the private sector, with leaders of all levels of society, and with the community. And we were intentional about investing and working together on issues like public safety. And this year, Baltimore had the steepest one-year drop in homicides in its city's history. We were intentional about working together in economic growth. And Baltimore has one of the fastest growing economies in the entire nation right now. We were intentional about keeping the Orioles in Baltimore for the long term, and signed a lease extension for 30 years to keep baseball in this city for a generation. And that's why I'm proud that we had a chance to have remarkable leaders like the new MSA Chair, Craig Thompson, helping to lead that charge. So Baltimore is being tested right now. But Baltimore has been tested before. And every time we stand up on 2 feet, we dust ourselves off, and we keep moving forward. Baltimore may get knocked down, but Baltimore doesn't stay down. Baltimore gets back up. And the reason I came here today is because I'm calling on everybody to do their part. In this game, nobody gets to sit on the sidelines. We need every single Baltimorean, and we need every single Marylander to join us in this work to rebuild this bridge and rebuild this city. And that work is happening as we speak. The best minds in the world are coming together to collect the information that we need to move forward with speed and safety in our response to this collapse. Government is working hand in hand with industry to investigate the area, to clear the wreck, and to move the ship. Leaders from across local and state and federal levels are gathering funds to rebuild this bridge. This work is not going to take hours. This work is not going to take days. This work is not going to take weeks. We have a very long road ahead of us. And that's exactly why we need partners like the Baltimore Orioles. Because this team reminds us what we're made of. The Orioles give us hope. The Orioles give us pride. The Orioles remind us what it means to be Maryland tough and Baltimore strong. So today, Baltimore stands strong. Baltimore stands tough. And Baltimore plans on seeing it through. So we are all here for opening day. We're all here for an exciting new chapter. But we also know that in this moment, we are going to move in partnership, because together, again, we are going to have another reopening day. And that will be the reopening of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And you can bet on that. So now, I'd like to call up the new owner of the Baltimore Orioles, David Rubenstein.
Thank you, Governor, and I'd like to acknowledge the presence as well as the President of the City Council, the Mayor, Senator Cardin. Thank you all for coming, and all of you who are here today. I first met the Governor when he joined the Johns Hopkins Board. I was on the Johns Hopkins University Board, and they announced that a new person was joining the board, Wes Moore. And I looked at the resume and said, how can anybody do all that? How could somebody be a Rhodes Scholar, a football player at Hopkins? I served in the military in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's a nice guy and charming. And I said, I've seen a lot of political talent in my life. This person should go into politics at some point. But before that, I tried to recruit him to my firm. I said, the highest calling of mankind is private equity, and you should get in the private equity firm. But he had other things in mind. He wanted to do things like Robin Hood and other kinds of things and give back to the society. And so I admire the governor, and I want to thank him for hosting me for lunch on Saturday, because although he's very busy, obviously, with many things, he wanted to talk about the Baltimore Orioles and the ground lease that we hope to negotiate and complete by the end of the year. And the governor convinced me that he would get it through the legislature as soon as possible. So thank you very much, Governor, for that. And let me just say that Baltimore has a closer relationship with its team, its baseball team, than I think any other city does in the country. The team really represents the character, the soul, the grit, the personality of this city in a way that is not really true of any other baseball team in its city. And that's a good thing. Baltimore is a unique city. I grew up here. I know the pluses, I know the minuses, I know the challenges, I know the opportunities. And we have now a political team in the city, the state, that I think can really help make this city live up to all of its potential. I hope the Orioles can play a small part in that. But so I hope what can happen is that the Orioles can, by winning, by unifying the city, by recovering the kind of greatness that it had in 1966 or 70 or 73, we can win a World Series again. But to do that, it's not easy, and it requires everybody to pull together. The 26 players in the team are 26 key people to make the team go forward. But you really need people in the back office, the front office, and the fans, and the commercial interest in the city, and the whole character of the city to pull together. Nobody's ever won a World Series by having a fan base that didn't care about the team. Nobody's ever won a World Series with the lethargic fans. You need fans who are dedicated and who care about the team, and that's what we have, but we're going to have it even more, I hope. And so what I wanted to do is to give back to the city in some ways. I grew up in Baltimore. I got a great public school education at Baltimore City College, right? And at other schools, Pimlico Junior High School, Falstaff Elementary. And the best teachers I ever had, including college and law school, were my teachers in Baltimore City College. It was a wonderful thing to give me a public education, which my parents really needed to give me because they couldn't have afforded to send me to a private school. And I really want to give back to Baltimore in a modest way, my expression of appreciation for all that Baltimore has done for me over the years and done for my family. So I grew up here. I was educated here. My parents grew up here. They were educated here. My parents are buried here, and I will be buried here. And I really want to say to Baltimore, this is a new day, a new chapter. We've had some challenge in the past, but we're looking forward. And in this regard, I want to thank John Angelos and his family, and particularly his mother, Georgia, who I met with recently. They've had some challenges for sure. There's no doubt that it was not easy for times. But John Angelos decided it was a good time for a new chapter, and I thank him for doing so. Now, when the team first came here in 1954, the purchase price was $2.2 million. My partners and I are paying a little bit more than that, inflation being what it is. But we're proud of every penny we're paying because it's worth every penny we're paying, because we really have a unique franchise with an incredible group of young players with the best general manager in baseball, the best manager in baseball, and I hope the best fans in baseball, and also the best government officials supporting a team in baseball. So what I hope to do is to make sure this is not the high water mark. Today is an easy day to say everything is great, and hopefully we'll win opening day. But I don't want this to be the high water mark. I want the high water mark to be in the fall when we go to the World Series and we show that we are a city that supports a great team, and we are a city that is represented by a great team, and we unify the city in ways that only the Orioles can really do. We have other teams and other great institutions in this city, and I've been involved with some of them like Johns Hopkins. But nothing unifies a city and unifies this city as the Baltimore Orioles and as the success of the Baltimore Orioles. So I hope that we can bring that about, and I look forward to working with everybody in Baltimore who would like to help the Orioles become as great as they once were and as great as we know they can be. Now, I've gotten a fair amount of attention recently. I wish my parents were alive to see it. My mother would say, "David, what do you know about owning a baseball team?" And of course, she wouldn't have that much confidence I knew that much. She told me not to go into business because it wouldn't work. She said, "Keep my law license. You need something to fall back on. I'm still a member of the D.C. Bar just in case I have to fall back on my legal skills, which are not that great. But I didn't do this by myself. There were a whole team of people that worked on this for many, many, many months. People who are friends of mine, people who are colleagues of mine, people who are investment bankers, people who are lawyers, accountants, and so forth. It was a real, to buy a baseball team, it takes a city to buy a baseball team. It takes a village to buy a baseball team. And a lot of people, I want to thank all of them for working together. One of the key things I wanted to do was to have a financial partner along my side who knows a lot more about finance than I do and who's built a really good company. And that person is Mike Arougheti. He is not as well known to you because he's not from Baltimore, but he knows much more about baseball probably than I do because he's been a participant in a fantasy baseball league for 27 years. 27 years. And now he has to give that up because the rules of baseball don't let you be in fantasy baseball leagues anymore. But he knows a great deal about finance. He's built an incredible company in New York called Ares, and with his partners who are also here, who are also investing with us, I think we've got a great combination. So it's my pleasure and honor to have my partner come up here, Mike Arougheti. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, David and Governor Moore, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My partners, Mitch Goldstein, Mike Smith, and I stand proudly with the great city of Baltimore today. David always loves to mention my fantasy baseball legendary performance, but really what I think that's more indicative of is just my lifelong passion for this great game that we all love together. And as much as I love the sport and the pacing of the season, what baseball has done for me, and I think has done for this community, is bring people together. I know nothing in the world of sport that brings communities and families together generation to generation with shared memories and history and values and dreams. And I know the healing power of sport and the healing power of baseball. And so my thoughts and prayers go out to the families and all of the lives that have been impacted by the tragedy at the Key Bridge. But it's my sincere hope that today, opening day, will be a moment where we all can come together and have a moment of joy in a dark week and celebrate this city and this community and the strength of the city of Baltimore. Now, David is also so generous with his description of my accomplishments, but David and I have been friends and competitors for a very long time, and he is a very unique, special kind of leader. He approaches his entire life with a sense of humility and modesty. I think we both share humble beginnings. Both of my parents were public school teachers, and so I always get a great kick out of David's love of his public school education. My grandfather was a postal worker. My paternal grandfather was a Navy Yard welder. And so I understand how important baseball is to communities and to cities and to pulling people up, and I feel fortunate to be able to be here doing my little part to help improve the city of Baltimore and advance this great franchise. But David is a special leader. He is a servant leader. He puts the people that are around him before himself. He approaches everything he does with great philanthropy and great generosity. And I think it's through that lens that I come to this moment in my life and with this franchise, because we are really guardians of this franchise. It's nice to be an owner, but this is an asset of the city and the community. We have a deep sense of civic responsibility to do the best we can to advance the franchise, to advance the neighborhood, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. What I've also done, despite the humility, I've also come to know that David is a great competitor, and maybe one of the things that I love more than baseball is winning, and I know that David does too. And while we are united in many views and many things, I think we are together in our steadfast hunger to bring a World Series championship back to Baltimore as soon as possible, and we will do everything that we can to do that. And so I look forward to a great season. Thank you for embracing me, my family, my partners. We're thrilled to be part of this wonderful community and look forward to a great season. Thank you.